All right, so thank you. All three of you received your feedback. It does look like we have a variety of levels and experience in here. This is very casual and laid back. Please feel free to interrupt us, to ask questions, or to share ideas, or ask us to redo something. Again, you kind of saw in that Google form the topics that we will be covering. All of you know all of us, I believe.
Oh.
You know them?
Yeah, I
Mitch
do.
and Gerald. Okay, great.
Do you guys know all of us? I mean,
So, for Gerald and Mitch, if you have ideas or you're like, I like that, how can I use that in the class? Or if there's something you want to do in the class and you want to brainstorm how to use the specific tool, we can do that as well. Lesh, you did seem pretty comfortable with the first part of the presentation, but hopefully you are able to get some new tips and tricks with the choice boards and the choose your own adventure drag and drops. All right. The first thing, just for reference, you guys will get this presentation, are keyboard shortcuts. So if you don't like all the clicking, you have in there, the first column are the functions, for example, a new slide. The second column are the keyboard strokes, so you would click Control M. So this is really just for reference if you want to become more familiar with them. Sometimes you kind of get lost in your presentation. So home and end buttons in the top row of your keyboard. The home button will bring you back to slide 1. The end button will bring you to the end of your slides. So those are two common ones, keyboard strokes that I use.
okay, so to insert Google Images directly, trying that again, insert images directly from Google Images. I'll be honest, until I sat in Christy's presentation in April, I guess, I was doing it the way more complicated way. I was opening up another tab, going into Google and searching for what I needed to insert. It is way easier now that I know the trick. So you're going to click on Insert, and Catherine is going to do it for us. You're going to click on Insert, then you're going to select Search the Web. You also have the option to take a picture, to move a picture from your Google Drive or your computer. So you're going to search the web in the drop-down list, and then a side panel is going to pop up, and you're going to search for Google Images. That's going to appear on the right side of your screen. Catherine, what are we searching?
I'm gonna do George Washington.
George Washington again?
Oh, let's do George Washington Carver.
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
So you are going to get a variety of options of pictures that you can look up. You can either click on select it and then click on the insert button, or what is even easier than that is you can drag and drop the picture from the sidebar onto your image.
And notice that you can also resize the picture. I really recommend just using the corners to resize, because if you use the top or the sides, it distorts it. If you look at the one that looks the kind of the crosshairs picture, you can use that to move the image itself around. Well, and of course now it's not doing. You can use that to move the image itself around.
Also to note, if you are searching for an image that you want to insert that doesn't, like that picture of George Washington Carver was in a square and it had background information. If you wanted to insert a picture that had a clear background, which will come in handy when we get to tomorrow with the Bitmoji classrooms, but you can search for PNG and that will give you a picture that has a clear background. Maybe use the cartoon one. And there he is. So he has a clear background. You don't see, like if it was an image of him with like a black background or a green background, you wouldn't necessarily, it won't take up that much space.
And it's less distracting, I think,
yes,
if it doesn't have a background.
You can layer it on the slide.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, you can do it.
Okay.
So next is crop images to mask. To mask an image, you're going to select the image. Catherine's already got it selected. And then you're going to click on the crop tool up at the top.
It looks like, yeah, it's a square with a little extra.
Yeah, it's the same that you would see on your phone if you were cropping a picture that you took. Then in the drop down bar in the menu, you're going to choose shapes, and you can pick any of those shapes. So she put him in a circle. Emily, for you, go back into the drop down menu so we can show her the math ones. Emily, there's the equation ones choices, which would be good for you. Even some of the arrows would work in math or science. Sorry,
And you could also create a border around it if you wanted to, kind of make it look a little more official, or just, add some visual interest to it as well.
Okay,
If you
let's
want to do the drop
shadow.
Okay, so format options.
Yes, you're going to go to format options. Then you're going to click on drop shadow.
All right, so let's say we wanted to do blue.
Since he's got a blue tie on and a blue
And
suit.
then, what did you do, distance?
Distance, that makes it bigger.
Blur radius.
Yeah.
And once again, this just adds some visual interest to it.
You can see
Under the
it's,
bust.
Yeah.
it's under the bust, not the circle.
Right there. And it just adds a little visual interest to it, kind of draws the eye to it a little bit more. And this is also a good option if you create a Bitmoji classroom. It helps make it look more realistic, but we'll cover that also in day 2.
You can also use the drop shadow on titles or wording. Anything you highlight, you can add that to.
Yep. You want to go to the next one?
Yeah.
All right, so adding links. If you wanted to link, for instance, an article to this, there's a few different ways you can do it. One of the ways that I usually do is I might open up another tab, and let's say I look up, what's something, give me a topic.
The American Revolution.
American Revolution.
We're social studies people. Sorry, guys.
Or so, for instance, you could always do something regarding sports medicine or health, something like that. So here I'm copying my link.
Control C.
Control C, thank you, yes. And then I can either do Control V or right hand, or no, I'm sorry. I'll go to Insert, and I'm going down to Link. And notice I can put the link in right here and apply it.
Yeah.
And it will,
Everything up, link it to.
okay, and it'll open it up right there. Or notice that it says right here to rename the link. So let's say that I just want to name the link American Revolution. And I can apply that. So that way it's not just a gigantic mess of letters and numbers and everything.
And you can also use that to even give directions to the kids. Click this link to read the article, or look at the map, or find this reference sheet for math and science.
And then the other thing that you can do is link to another slide in the presentation. This is especially helpful if you're short on time, or also if you just want the kids to be able to quickly jump from one to the other. So I'm highlighting link to other slides in the presentation. I'm inserting a link, and notice down here, it says slides in the, oops, sorry. So I'm inserting a link.
The same exact process,
Right.
whether you're inserting an external link, like when she searched for American Revolution, or if you want to link to a slide within the presentation. So an example of this would be, you have two different, how are you feeling today? You have a happy face and a sad face. Mitch asked about using the GIFs, whatever. You can have those, and you can make the GIF the clickable link. So you can link within an image, an icon, a word, you can link anything to be clickable.
And so now, notice now that it's highlighted, it's in blue. And so this will take me directly to slide 7 without the kids having to scroll. But as Ms. Cusacks just said, there's other ways to do it as well. And you can put in a GIF, you can put in an icon, a picture, anything of that nature.
That also works for choice boards, which we'll be getting to a little bit later.
We want to pause there and see if anybody has any questions or needs us to show them the buttons again, how to add any links or add images. Is everybody okay with that? How do I undo a link?
Okay, great. So I actually just did that a moment ago. So I'll highlight it again. So I inserted a link. And let's just say I did it so I could jump to slide 8. I've applied it. Now it's highlighted in blue. Another thing that I can do is possibly, there's a few different ways to do it. You can always just click on it. And if you look here, it looks like a little chain link with a line through it. And it says remove link. So I click that and it's no longer linked to that wording.
But the text still stays.
Right, the text still stays, but there's no hyperlink there anymore. So no one would be able to access anything.
No problem. All right, so then the next slide.
Okay. All right, so this is adding YouTube videos. We find that the kids really enjoy YouTube videos. Most of you that have kids or know kids know that a lot of them really like watching content on there. And so this is a really good way to increase their learning, but also make sure they're engaged. What I'm going to do is show you how to add a YouTube video, but also customize the start and end time. So let's say it's a 2-hour movie and you want to show them 1 2-minute clip. You can customize the start and end time so that you don't have to sit there and press play and pause and fast forward. You're able to easily just customize what you want them to see.
And I'm a nerd girl. This makes it so much easier for me when anybody who knows me well knows I'm obsessed with the TV show The West Wing, which there's so many clips in there that are perfect with what we're talking about. But I had been kind of having to go on YouTube and manipulate it that way, but it's easier to just be able to put the clip straight into the presentation so that when I open that slide, it automatically starts playing.
And just a heads up, and you all may know this, but I feel like it's always worth mentioning, a lot of the YouTube videos are blocked. So you will need to check. There's usually a little script at the bottom of the video that says whether or not it's approved for Discovery Schools. And if it is something that is not approved, you can always put in a tech ticket to Christy or Daniel, and they can unblock individual websites for you so that you don't run into having to constantly, try and fix that on the fly.
And if you're like Catherine and I, nothing is worse than putting a link out there and getting 156 emails telling you that it doesn't work.
All right, so I'm going to click on Mr. Bett's class. He's one of my favorite historical, history teachers to watch. He takes historical topics and puts them kind of to popular music, makes up songs to them. So I've copied the link. So what I'm going to do is insert video. And then I'm going to paste the link in here, Control V, select that, and there it goes. Now, here's what you can do. The video shows up here. You can also move it around, reposition it however. Now, in his videos, he kind of usually does a lot of introductory chatter, and let's say you want to avoid that. So I might go, okay, well, I want it to start at 21 seconds. And he talks a lot at the end, so I want to end it at 2 minutes and 40 seconds, just so the kids don't have any unnecessary video and you can kind of move on. If you'll notice, Two, there are also a few other options here to autoplay when presenting. So let's say they're doing more of a self-paced lesson. You can click it so that they don't even have to click on the triangle for YouTube, and it'll automatically play. And then Ms. Cusack's pointed out, if you wanted to do, you can mute the audio. Let's say you wanted to do an anticipatory set where you show the kids something and say, all right, what do you think about this? What do you wonder about this? What topic do you think we're going to cover next? Just to kind of increase their excitement and their engagement. Any questions about that?
Or if you find a video and it has a bad word in it.
Oh,
You can always mute the audio and just have them watch.
Right. Just make sure closed captioning is turned off too. Yeah. And it's always a good idea to preview the videos before. Luckily, I've only had it happen once, but it was an uncomfortable moment. It was not here. It was at another school, but I did not preview like I should have. And there was an inappropriate word in the video. So just make sure you look at it before you show it to the kids.
The timestamp? Did you mention the timestamp?
I did.
Okay.
I did. Yes. All right. Do you want me to go to the next one? All right.
So we kind of mentioned this. First of all, we took a presentation from Miss Amy. She kind of gave us a skeleton of what she had used in the spring and added to it. So we tried to put as many links and templates and things, because we know we're doing a lot for people who are just learning slides. So all of those links are clickable links. However, as I mentioned, you can use icons, you can use images as clickable links, and that's kind of the basis for the Bitmoji thing tomorrow. Also, I'm not sure what session you guys went to first. If you went to Nearpod, hopefully you're saying you still need slides for Nearpod. So all of the tools that we're telling you about Google Slides will be where you create your presentation. And then when you upload to Nearpod, that's when you add your features like your collaboration, the post-it notes, or feedback, or recorded responses from students. So you're still going to need the foundation in Google Slides, even though we're using Nearpod. And if you haven't done that session yet, and you have questions, we can answer most of those, or I recommend going to that session later. So Icons by Now project, that's one that Ms. Amy recommended. And kind of what I mentioned to you guys about the happy face and sad face, those could be icons. Did you like this book? Yes. And it'll bring you to this activity. Did you like this book? No. And it might bring them to an alternative activity. Again, foundation for the Bitmoji rooms or the interactive boards, whatever you want to call it, but you make images clickable links. So that Icons by Now project is just where you can find icons. I just usually use Google Image, but when she shared that, that was helpful. The Explore button is kind of a shortcut. So Catherine and Michelle kind of showed you how you can open a tab to search for something as you would just Google search. But if you go to Tools at the top toolbar, and then click the Explore button, on the right-hand side, she's just going to search and do American Revolution again. If she searches American Revolution just like she did before in a brand new tab, this is kind of a shortcut, but now that term is going to be searched on the web, in her images or Google Images, and in her Drive. So depending on what you touch, web, Drive, images, that's what's going to pull up right there on the side. You don't have to open a brand new tab. Say she wants to pull over that article. What she showed you before was to copy and paste that, that link and bring it to the slide. But if she just clicks on it and drags it over to the slide, it's going to automatically, it's going to automatically create a hyperlink and a text box on the slide. There we go.
I like the option to search in my Drive instead of having to go into my Drive if I want to insert a link for them to work on an activity. I can just find it here without that extra step.
And here you can see I just kind of place it up here really quickly. If you wanted to make the font bigger, you certainly can. You just highlight it, but then I can click on it, and then it takes me immediately to whatever it is that I need to. So it kind of takes out an extra step of having to open up another tab, copy and paste, and all of that. So it's a really cool function to have.
And again, the same features Catherine showed you about editing the title, Changing it from the actual web link, she could rename that anything. It could say, click here if you wanted to.
Right.
You can still change the name and everything. Again, just a shortcut. So that was the explore button. The next link is 30 interactive Google Slide activities, just a wonderful resource to have. They have a bunch of templates in there using Google Slides already made, using jigsaw activities. If you want to assign a certain amount of slides to a certain group of students, they would only have access to those certain slides. So a lot of Google interactive activities are going to use templates. So you don't have to build all this from scratch. You can take something someone else did and then tailor it for what you want. Again, these were 30 activities, but if you just Google Slides and blah, 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 Google Slides and health, Google Slides and math, whatever, you're going to find these templates to insert into your presentation.
And animate a concept, just thinking, of who it all is in this meeting. So Emily, if you wanted to show kids a certain way to solve a math problem, or Coach Mitch, if you were trying to show them a certain way to run a route or do something else, this is a way that you could do that kind of in a more interactive way. But there's self-grading quizzes, which kind of takes a little bit of the work out for you. And then a choose your own adventure story, which we'll actually get to in just a few moments.
We also wanted to provide some resources for you for future knowledge.
We're going to share, Mitch, we're going to share this. We can share the whole presentation.
With you, and it'll all be hyperlinked. The feedback template is something new, but we tried to give you as many resources that you can follow in the future. So Alice Keeler is someone that we recommend if you're interested in educational technology. One of her interesting, unique things is a feedback template. So if you want to provide feedback to your students, you can have kind of like a master slide deck that you can pull from. So if you go to the next one. So like this is an example of a math problem. The students would answer the problem, and then she has a feedback loop. So she has that's not right, or just something to be more encouraging. This is definitely not a priority, but you can have these slides in your bank that you can then provide feedback to the kids in their presentation. So it's not just a static comment.
Right, and it's not, it's not something just like, oh, good job, or, it's a little more interactive for them. And also, audio feedback as well. So that, for some of your kids, if you wanted to praise them, but also say, here's something maybe you could work on, and that way they can listen to it and, kind of go back to it to see what else they might need to work on.
Yeah, and she has a video in this link that explains it much more clearly and much more in detail, in depth, if that's something that you're interested in using. So again, that feedback template, Alice Keeler, and that link is on the slide. All right, drag and drop. This is something, when we went to virtual learning in the spring, it was, I can't get them papers all the time. I can't get papers back from them, but I need to make sure they're still picking up on basic recall information. This can be basic, use basic in a basic way, or it can be very advanced. So kind of the process of drag and drop would be like for your matching, or for identifying, or labeling, fill in the blank, any of those types of things, drag and drop is really helpful for. So you kind of want to think of backwards design, because it can be overwhelming to know where to start. So plan, what do you want the kids to be able to do? Do you want them to be able to identify coordinates on coordinate plane? Do you want them to be able to match structure on the skeletal system? Do you want them to be able to put, Gerald, maybe a recipe in order, or the procedures of equipment cleaning? I don't know exactly what they can do, but any type of procedural things, this is really helpful for. But the step 2 is that you create a background image on a new slide. I'm going to show you how to do all this in a minute. And using a background image is going to lock the image in the background of the slide, so the kids cannot change it at all. Then you can create individual text boxes. So this is the first one that I learned how to do in the spring. I was teaching biomed still and had to figure out how to teach blood flow through the heart. It is a very procedural thing. It's vocab related, but it's a very higher order thinking concept, because then they had to, put a number next to each word to identify the procedural steps, like what is the flow. And then it was part of a whole larger activity. But this is an easy way. I went to background. Catherine has it highlighted. The color was selected to black. The image, just like we showed you, using that Google search, you can use the Explore button or open a new tab and search. You can upload from your computer. You can take a picture with the camera on your computer. You can go to your Google Drive and select the image. And then you can also use your Google image search here. So I found a picture of a heart. I did use the PNG because I wanted to have a transparent background. You click done. And so right now it would just be a black screen with the heart. All the vocab listed on the left-hand side are just individual text boxes. So if you go to the toolbar, the shortcut is the T with the square around it for a text box. Oh, next to the arrow, go down, yep, right there. That's a shortcut to create text boxes. And I just kept creating text boxes with the different words in it. So left atria, right ventricle, left ventricle. Each one of those is a separate text box. Then the students are able to click the text boxes and put it on top of the image. The image won't move because it was set as a background. It's now locked in place. So again, this can be used at any level with any content. With math, the high school math teachers were brainstorming, you could have the background image as the coordinate axis and then have different coordinates listed all around, and they have to drag the coordinates to the point on the graph. Pretty high order thinking that you would need paper, but if we're in virtual world, you won't have that unless they take a picture of what they did on paper and upload it. So this is something I really like. You can use this as more of an assessment. If you have T-charts and you want to, this is this, or this is that. This is a dairy, this is a protein, any type of differentiating instruction, it can be used as well. Are there any questions or comments on that? I have one more drag and drop before we pause. This is another math one, and it's a screenshot, so I apologize, it's a little blurry. But this is modeling using algebra, the tiles, Common Core way of doing math. But you have an algebraic expression, they need to solve it. And basically on the right side where it says your turn, you have everything available. And these are just images, just shapes. So you would create a box, you would create a rectangle. And just like we showed you, you insert the shape, and you click and drag it as big as you want it. So you have the hundreds tiles, the tens tiles, the ones tiles, and they have to drag that over. In the first session, we had some lower school teachers, and they really liked this, and they're like, well, every time I do a lesson, am I gonna have to redo this? No, I really think you should have to create your own deck. Like, what am I gonna use all the time? And make a master slide deck of that, or master presentation, whatever you wanna call it. And then just pick from it. That's kind of like your toolbox. So you would just have to create these tiles one time and then copy that slide or use it in a variety of ways every time. Or Emily's saying she likes the coordinate plane. So that might not be something that you use all the time, but these tiles would be an example of something you would use all the time. And Catherine's showing you how to insert the shape.
So the T with the box around it, let's say that you wanted to label this as your hundreds, you just, of course I can't spell it, you would just put it on there. Or like, for instance, notice that it's got the equations up there. You could also insert the text box above it as well, so that if you wanted them to find the area or anything like that, it would be really easy to just insert the text box and do it that way.
Yeah, and Emily, you said, can you insert lines to connect points? Yes. You can have, like I had on the heart diagram, I just had the vocab. You could have lines, like maybe you were identifying types of graphs. You could have an exponential line, exponential, positive, exponential, negative for growth or whatever. I don't even remember the standards that you're covering. Well, you can have a variety of lines already there where you just click and drag. That might be an accommodation for kids who need that scaffolding. For other kids, they would just go to insert shape and use the line function to draw the line from one coordinate to the next.
And there's even a line feature up at the
That's what I was
top.
talking about. Yeah.
So let's say that you wanted them to draw an arrow to demonstrate that they knew that this is what it was supposed to look like. You can do that as well. So that would be especially good, I would think, for, matching, labeling, any sort of geometrical concept.
And it's funny, the heart diagram was for freshmen. It was the honors group of freshmen, but still, I just gave them the words in the picture, and a lot of them automatically used that line with the arrow because, perfectionists, they couldn't have it on the image. They just identified it, and that wasn't a step. So the kids, this is natural for them. It is going to be a challenge to get started, but once you get going, Emily, thank you for sharing your ideas. That's kind of how it starts. Just kind of need to see how it can be used and then take off from there.
And I will say that the kids, this is their language, so they either know more than us sometimes as far as the technology goes, or they're not afraid to just start clicking things and figure it out. My end of the year project last spring, I asked them to create a one-pager, which is something we do in my class, and it's one page about a certain topic. And I told them they needed to have quotes. Well, they found in the shapes, they found the speech bubble and they used that speech bubble. So a lot of them will push it even farther than you expect.
And they honestly, frequently, a lot of times, I'll be watching them while they're making a presentation and I'll say, how did you do that? And they're like, oh, here you go. So you really can learn a lot from them too. So, all right.
We're going to pause for a minute and see if there's any questions, any ideas, anything. Can you go back?
Sure.
Instead of that one, just get. See if there's any questions, any ideas that you have, or you're like, this is what I need to be able to do. How can I do it? That you're already thinking about in your class. I see, Emily, you talked about using your master slide. I'm going to pause and I'm going to come back to that in a second. Mitch or Gerald, do you guys have any feedback or questions? Okay. So I'm going to jump ahead to day 2 just for one topic. You don't have to go anywhere, but I just want to say this. So Emily, you talked about your master slide. So say, and I think Megan Campos did this last year. Say you want your presentation, you build it yourself because you have to have something to send to the kids, right? And you know it's going to be 15 slides, say, at the end. But you only want to send them the first 3 slides. You would share the presentation with them, post it to Encore's Classroom so they would have it, or upload it to Nearpod, whatever. But there's a way for you to then push slides to the kids after they already have a presentation. This is part of our day 2, but if you're not coming back to us tomorrow, you're going to get the full day 1 and day 2 presentation that we're doing. So you'll have a template that you're going to use Google Forms. And it's a little bit of a procedure, a process at first, but once you do it once, it's not that bad. You collect the shareable link from the kids, and then the Google Forms does the magic and pushes the slide out to them. So that's part of our interactive notebook discussion that we're going to be doing tomorrow, if that's something that you're interested in, to where they can keep building those slides instead of adding to pages of a paper digital notebook. So there's lots of cool things you can do. All right, Mitch and Gerald said they're good. So we'll jump to choice boards. Michelle had mentioned her one-pager, and my son was in her class last year, so I do know both of these activities, and they were very engaging for him. The one-pager used that background image. The kids had to do that. I actually learned it from him then.
Yeah, I learned it from them too. I'll be honest.
How to change the background image to lock it. And then they were able to use those images and pull them in, and they did all the shape masking that we showed you at the beginning. So it really was engaging. And then the geography choice board came in the spring too.
Yeah. Catherine's pulling it up for us. Okay, full disclosure. I initially started this project. I should also mention this was when I was sick with COVID. So I initially started the project, and the emails that I got, y'all, was like crazy. They couldn't figure it out. They couldn't figure out how to do it. By that point, it was like mid to late April. They were just frustrated. So I was like, Christy, what can I do to make this more functional for them? And that's when she said, oh, we'll do the choice board like this. And I will admit that she made the slides, but because I was sick, and she's a genius and wonderful. Yeah. It would have taken her longer to explain to me what to do than it took her to do it. So there were 4 categories: types of maps, coordinates, directions, and map keys and scale. They were required to do 1 activity from each of those columns. So if they wanted to say they wanted to create a 3D visual of the important lines of latitude and longitude, they would click on that, and it pulls it up to directions and information. And some of them there were links that were added. So it gives them all the information that they need for that one. And then a little later, we'll show you in one of these other choice boards, we'll show you how you can have a marker for them to drag and drop. This is what I'm doing first. This is what I'm doing second.
Yeah, so this started as a PDF. She shared it to her drive or uploaded it from her computer, and it was set as a background image. So this whole thing you're looking at is the background image. Then the kids chose through Google, or you added the marker from Google Image, the globes, and then they were able to put the globes to tell her which one of the activities in each column they were doing. So on the next slide, we have another one from Miss Douglas in the spring. And this one was right. So each letter across the top had 3 choices of activities to do. And so you can see the little fuzzies were just Google images that were searched by the teacher and were placed around the outside. So it was like a drag and drop for the kids to bring choice 1 to select their choices. And again, as a teacher, this lets you know these are the activities the kids completed, so you are able to then, more easily find their work or be able to assess their work.
And you can see off to the side on the right-hand side, she's kind of explained, all right, once you've completed it, drag one of the markers, so that way they could easily kind of determine, and it would also help them keep track of what it was that they needed to do as well.
So again, these templates are in the presentation, and this whole thing will be shared with you. So you can change the letters, change the wording if this is what you like, and it's already ready to go.
And I will say, again, the kids have a way with technology. So for the geography choice board, I kept a couple of them. I was like, why didn't they submit anything to me? But they had embedded it into the choice board slides because they're just that smart.
So she had directed them to upload whatever they completed as an attachment in Google Classroom, but the kids already figured out how to embed it within the slide without being part of the directions. All right, so if those first 2 seem a little scary, a little much, I love differentiation. I think it's super important for us to offer choice to the students, as well as different levels. But we want to make sure, not that anybody does this anymore, but at one point it was the high group go over here and read this book, and the low group go over here and read this book. So I like to find ways that we can provide choice and provide differentiation without it kind of being blasted to everyone. So this is a Tic Tac Toe choice board that I have shared in the past, but I really do like it, and it's a good place to start if you're kind of overwhelmed. So basically, Tic Tac Toe, 3 in a row. You create a table within slides, just insert table and select the 3x3 grid. And the bluish colored slides, 1 through 4, these are going to be your lower level activities, your recall, your matching, your fill in the blank, your maybe spiraling, whatever it is that the kids really should be able to do pretty easily. And then the line, yellowish colors, slides 6 through 9 are going to be your higher level activities, maybe your more challenging or your extension or something new. The number 5 slide in the center with the star on it is kind of like your free space. So that's the one activity everybody has to do. You don't have to keep it color-coded. This is just for emphasis to describe you how to set it up. But you can see it doesn't matter how they get tic-tac-toe, every single direction that each kid is going to do the same activity as everybody else in square 5. They're going to do a lower level activity and they're going to do a higher level activity. So you can have the markers, you can still use the markers, choice 1, choice 2, choice 3, or have them draw a line to show their tic-tac-toe. And they have no idea what they're doing differently than anybody else.
And if you'll notice, she also put at the bottom back to the choice board so that, they can easily click back and forth without any worry about losing their place or anything like that.
Yeah. Lesh, I'm loving your energy.
Did you want to point out the podcast?
Oh, sure. So this is another resource. This is Casey Bell's Shake Up Learning. It's a podcast. Love her. She's Christy's on her tech board or whatever. That's how I heard about it. But she has really short and to the point podcasts and lots of free tech stuff. She does have a book that a couple people have used or read, but I just like going to her podcast and listen to her sometimes. Really easy to follow. Okay, so if you have the choice boards, you're good with it. Now choose your own adventure. I would love to see this, Lesh, since you're feeling so ambitious, in a math class. Maybe an escape room type thing, or maybe they need to solve a certain problem to get to the next step of the adventure. I don't know, whatever it is. But in reading, this is really cool too, because you could say, or Mitch, case study. This is in health. This is the scenario. What should they do next? This or this? Yeah. And so these are, some of them are a little antiquated, but it's late. If you click the pirate one, this is one example of one, I don't know anything about Dragon Quest or whatever it is that comes out. But it kind of tells a story. You can just stay there for a second. The first slides, again, you have this whole template. It's a choose your own adventure story books if you remember when you were older. When you were younger. So click to begin. Yes, steps to solve a multi-step equation. Should you do this or should you do that? And that is a great formative assessment, or for your spiraling, that's a great way to check in a way that's not just paper. So continue. So they're adding words, they're building up that anticipation, pulling the kids in, and then here's their first choice. Do you want to go to the peddlers for supplies, or do you want to continue on without supplies? So you can see how this could really be engaging. Say you died or something. So go back to the beginning of the story and try again.
It's like a band of something.
Okay, go to the next one in the presentation.
Sure. Treasure hunt.
Mm-hmm. So treasure hunt is another one. Again, all these templates are available to you, or you can Google templates for whatever you want to do and they're there. So this looks really intense, really cool, really effective, really engaging. All that is a locked background image of the ship. So you can put anything in the background, change the font up, and it's a totally different experience for the kids. So the next slide, you have landed on the island. What do you want to do? A, B, or C? Like Catherine showed you when she was showing you how to link to external links to the website. You could link to the other slides within the presentation. That's what this is. Really, really simple. So if she were to select B, it brought her to another slide. Can you exit out of present view so they can see?
Sure. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, go back to the ABC and just hover over B.
Hover over B.
It doesn't matter. So right there. So see, that's what it's showing you. She linked to that slide. So if you're not in present view, this is where the teacher would be editing. She just linked to slide 4. But when you're in present view that the kids would see, when they click on B, it automatically brings them to slide 4. So I just wanted you to see how that connection is made on the teacher side versus what the students would see. I have one more for you, Fortnite. Almighty Fortnite. This is a copy of a template that you're more than welcome to use. I did not create this, but I really enjoyed it. Not only did it differentiate, go to slide 3, please. not only did it differentiate the assignments, but the kids don't know, again, you can just have the colored circles. And so you don't always want to use technology 24/7, maybe for math. Maybe you want them to actually do stuff on paper and upload a picture. So the way that the teacher differentiated this activity was that the yellow activities, the 4 in the top left-hand corner, those involve G Suite, whether it was Google Drawings, Google Slides, Google whatever. The white ones were web tools, so more like extensions and websites for them to watch videos or listen to something. The blue ones were non-digital, so this might be the paper-based, and then the pinks were teacher-led. So this is sensors, y'all. This is how it would be in a classroom where they're doing, jigsawing, or they're rotating through a teacher table or whatever. You can have the pink group on the Google Meets while everybody else is doing something else. Or you can set the timer. For the first 5 minutes, work on a yellow activity. For the next 5 minutes, work on a white activity, whatever. Yes, Mitch, it's very creative. I love it. But all of this is just trying to reach the kids in a variety of levels. You will have to come up with more activities, but kind of the rule of thumb that I used when I first began is to think about all of your variety of students and what they like. So for teaching science, it would be easy for me to say, this is what you need to know. But I would almost always have a choice assignment. It didn't look like this in the beginning, but I would always have a history connection or a math connection where they'd have to solve something, or a scientist connection where they had to do more of like a historical, biographical part of an activity, or an art. They really like those kids who like to draw. They don't like science, but they can draw a cartoon to explain Newton's laws better than someone else can write it. So having those choices for the kids and thinking about those different modalities, you're going to get multiple versions of the same activity pretty quickly. It just takes a little bit to get it going.
And I will say that last year I had a student who wasn't super interested in anything unless it involved drawing. And so I made sure that on that geography choice board, there were things for him to draw. And I found that since he had to do more than one activity, he did the drawing one first, obviously, but then he was interested enough that he did other non-drawing things for the other options.
And it's just a really great way to differentiate, because you will have that child that does just want to write the research paper, but then you'll also have the child that wants to code something or make a recipe to, demonstrate their understanding. So this is a really good way to differentiate and keep them engaged and interested, and kind of just get a little bit deeper into their interests as well.
Yeah. Last you asked about, is there a way for them to go automatically into presentation mode when they open it? I think that's what happens in Nearpod. So you would create all of your slides and everything, as I kind of mentioned before, and then when you upload it to Nearpod, I think that's something that you can have a setting for there. So whether you select self-paced, where the kid has to click through, I don't know what the other one's called.
There's student-led, and then there's,
Or the regular version, where it automatically goes to present and it goes on its own. No problem. That's the end of day one. If there's any questions or ideas or anything you want to brainstorm with us, or you need a break, or you want to see something from day two.
Yeah, if you have questions, just go ahead and either unmute and ask or type them into the chat box. And if you feel done, you are also free to go. And this is recorded, and we'll also be sharing the presentation with you so that if you need to go back and look at it at any point in time, you can. But thanks for coming.
Thanks, guys.
Good. I'm
Great,
glad it was
Mitch.
useful.
And we're here to talk about, again, once you're ready to start using them, we're here for that. Or again, I really need to cover this concept, or, we're not gonna have as much FaceTime with these kids as we usually do. So if I need to cover all of this, maybe we can come up with a way to include multiple concepts using some of these choice boards. Thanks, Gerald. Look forward to seeing your Choose an Adventure recipe. Do you want to add baking soda or flour?
Yeah.
Salt or sugar?
All right, it's just us.
Separately.
Oh, yeah.